Welcome to How Real Estate Changed My Life. This is a podcast that I started putting together not too long ago, really because I kept hearing people talk about the stereotypes of real estate and real estate investors and all the false news out there on it. And I wanted to really just share real life experiences of real estate investors that I know that it's changed their life for the good. And if there's negative, let me know too. I'm just very excited about being able to share this with people. And Marty, you're one of those guys that has a really good story from corporate world to investing. I think you've used your investments to help create other opportunities in your life that I think I'd love to hear and share with everybody.
Sure.
But with that, just tell us about you.
Well, Kyle, thanks for having me on here. Marty Kennard, early 50s, retired from corporate America. Now, feels weird to say, but full-time entrepreneur / real estate investor. Live here in Dallas. I'm from Minnesota. So if you hear the long O's, blame it on the Great White North. There you go. That's me in a nutshell. That's the elevator version.
Okay. So I met you, man, has it been 10 years?
I think 11 might be about 11 or 12.
Wow, okay.
Actually.
11 years. And so we picked up a couple of properties that you had that you'd owned, and you just need somebody to come in to manage them for you so you could focus on other things. How did you get into, and why did you get into buying rental properties?
I tell people I got into it accidentally because that's kind of what happened. When I first moved to Dallas in 2006, I bought a home that was way too big, way too far north. After realizing that a year later, I wanted to live closer to town, but I couldn't sell the other home. Mm-hmm. So I ended up having two homes and a single guy with two mortgages. I was a little scared. I couldn't sell the other home, so I ended up renting it. And after a couple of years, I realized that they were paying down my note. It was building equity. It was a strategy that I kind of fell into. And then I worked for Target for 17 years. That's part of my background. When I took an early retirement from them, I had some stock options, cashed them in, and then I bought another rental home inspired by that first home that I got, like I said, accidentally. That's what got the domino started.
So on your second house, did you have any guidance or did you just wing it?
Oh, I totally winged it. Looking back, I bought it cash, which is a no-no. You want to put as little down as possible. But again, middle-class mentality, wanted to play it safe. And plus, at that point, I didn't have a W-2, so I needed to.
Yeah.
Learned a lot of lessons from that, but I actually still own that one. That's the one I've had the longest.
Mm-hmm. Hey, if you don't mind, because I know that's nothing compared to what you've done to date.
Yeah.
And I know you accumulated more. How did that happen? Especially since you were I'm going to say unemployed. You didn't have a job. How did you keep buying?
Again, I've got my stories down here. What I tell people is I went back and got a job to support my home buying habit. Mm-hmm. I guess there's worse habits to have. So I eventually went back after 8 months and earned a W-2. And with my retirement, I'd still get a payout every year, which was extra money that I didn't necessarily need. And after losing a ton of money in the stock market in 2007, I didn't want to put anything else in the market. So I decided to put it into real estate. Long story short, every year I would use that to buy, at least one, sometimes 3 homes. And it just kind of kept accumulating that way.
And at a certain point, I don't want to use the word leveled up because I don't want people to think that they have to level up to multifamily, but I think you played in that arena. You moved into that area, right?
I did. So in 2015, I would say I dabbled into it. I was a key principal on a 16 unit in Fort Worth. I was what we'd call a passive investor in a deal in Denton. And I was following the Lifestyles model pretty much until then. Because in 2016, I bought a bar, which kind of set my real estate back a little bit because that took a lot of my focus. But in 2020, when COVID hit and the bar got shut down, I realized, okay, not making any money from the sports bar, but my renters are still paying. I'm still, earning equity and tax deductions and all that good stuff. So that's when I got back into the game big time by selling a home, using a 1031 exchange to buy 3 other homes. I refinanced a couple homes. I sold some homes. I shook everything up. And now today I'm in 11 active deals. Oh, you know what? I need to update my numbers. I've got my little cheat sheet in front of me and I forgot about another one.
Isn't that great? So, you get to the point where you forget you own something.
Oh yeah. So yes, I'm in 12 active deals. I've sold 3 deals. So 12 active multifamily deals. As a result of the base that I started with my single family, I was able to take some of that money out, apply it to the multifamily.
Nice. So on your sports bar, which I think is fat, and hey, you can plug anybody and everybody you want. Like you mentioned Lifestyles. So it's Lifestyles Unlimited, which is a real estate investment group in Texas. And I think they've spread out I've learned a lot from them. They're great people. I've never seen them point people in the wrong direction. And then your sports bar, would that sports bar exist if it wasn't for real estate, you think?
No, in fact, that original home that I lived in, that I turned into a rental home north of Dallas in Lantana, I sold that home to buy the bar. So there wasn't any money out of pocket as far as it, wasn't from my checking account, wasn't from savings. I literally sold the home and exchanged it for, it's a sand volleyball bar and grill. Nation's largest. We've got 22 sand courts
There
in
you go.
NFL. There's my plug. Sports Garden.
Yeah. Well, I'm doing kind of helping out with a local school district here that has some land, and they're trying to figure out what to do with it. And the data comes back is like everybody needs volleyball courts and basketball courts for tournaments. I don't know if sand was included on their research, but it's amazing how much of a tournament program's out there nationwide for volleyball and all those sports. And I never really realized it until my kids came around.
Yeah, everybody loves volleyball. Obviously, the new up and coming sport is pickleball. Everybody wants pickleball. I don't know if that's as big with the students, but like I said, volleyball is a pretty safe bet.
Mm-hmm. You're in the multifamilies now, and you obviously would have never thought you'd be here when you left Target. So if somebody's sitting in their W-2 job and they kind of thought about real estate, what advice would you give them?
If you're in a job, that means you most likely have a W-2. Mm-hmm. This is when you need to get started. And the hardest part is getting started. So many people think about it, they read about it, but they don't actually take action. You've got to take action. People think it's a stress when you start buying homes. I found just the opposite.
Me too.
Once I started having some cash flow come in, I wasn't as worried about the day job. I could take risks. Mm-hmm. I spoke with confidence because I had this backup. Your people aren't going to retire off their job. It doesn't work that way anymore. The old days of pensions and retirements and that stuff, it doesn't work. You've got to do something on your own. It's extremely empowering, but you just got to get started.
And before we started recording, we mentioned about kind of some of your trips. That's one thing I love watching you on Facebook, because I love seeing your travels abroad. And I think, real estate's probably giving you a little bit of freedom and flexibility in that regard. Is that right?
Oh, without a doubt. That's one thing I really didn't like about the day job, is that if I wanted to go on vacation, I had to ask someone for permission. Pretty please, can I go on vacation? Now, if the weather's nice, if I sold something, if I've got some extra cash, I've got all the time. I've got flexibility. So I've chalked up all 50 states in 41 countries and growing.
Nice. Good times. So what's next with you? Are you going to keep going on the multifamily?
Yeah, without a doubt. So I've kind of stabilized my single families. I've got 4 of my single families that I rent out to transitional living. It's a Christian-based transitional living called the Freeman House. So they're organized, or they're stabilized. I've got my passive deals, which you do nothing. You give someone some money that syndicates a deal, and you sit back and maybe read the numbers, maybe not. Mm-hmm. So what I want to do is I want to lead a deal. I want to syndicate a deal. I've done the IRO thing where I'm the sole owner of a small complex. Now I want to be the lead of a much larger complex where I take in money from other people. One part because you can grow your money faster, but really, I just want to learn it.
Mm-hmm. So how would somebody that want to do the passive route, let's say they love Marty and they're like, hey, Marty's been there, done that. He's got a good track record. I trust him. How would a person learn about doing the passive side of putting money in with a syndication group? Where would they go? How would that happen?
Sure. Well, as you know, I'm with Lifestyles Unlimited, and they're an education and mentoring group for real estate investing, the largest in America. And I honestly do everything through them currently and plan on staying with them as long as I can. They are awesome. What they do is they help train both the leads and the passives to know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Then they have what's called a podium, a place where you can, leads can meet up with passes and vice versa. So the first thing is you need to have some sort of way to educate yourself. You need to have some way of facilitating the conversation between the two. That way you can make educated decisions as to who you're investing with, what they're investing in, and you can ask the right questions and have a comfort level as to the rules that they play by. Sorry, that's one of the things that's really important. They have what's called the white papers, which is a list of all the recommendations. Here's the things that you should do. Here's the things that you must do. Here's the things that you might want to do. But it's full transparency. So I'll give you one small microcosm as an example. Mm-hmm. Do they live in the city of the apartment that they own? They should. But if they don't, for various reasons, they need to explain how they're going to mitigate. But having that transparency and education really helps me feel comfortable.
Right. Yeah, I agree with a lot of that, especially you want to know kind of what somebody's, let's say, buy box and their rules of how they want to operate, as opposed to just blindly handing money to somebody that's done it before. Because you want to have that, that path that's already set out in front of you.
Yeah, you want to know the rules, and outside of lifestyles, it could be the wild, wild west. If you don't read the fine print or understand the fine print, you might be getting screwed over in some way, from a lead that's being overly gracious to themselves. So I like how it's facilitated. I love the transparency, love the education. So when I do my lead deal, it will be through them, and that's how I get it passes. So if someone has, hey, I've got $25,000 to invest, I've got $100,000 to invest. Here's the deal I'm looking at. Here's my background. Here's my plan. And the plan is, here's my financial story. Here's what we're going to do year 1, year 2. Hopefully by year 3 to 5, we're going to sell in these conditions. The script is written. You just have to decide if you agree with it.
So obviously nothing happens the way you plan, but if you don't plan, nothing good happens. Do you mind telling us a story of maybe when it didn't work and then followed up with the one that worked?
Honestly, I'll give you an example of where I probably sold too early. That's where it didn't work. No, actually, I'll give you one. The first deal that I was the KP in, it was a 16 unit in Fort Worth.
Yeah, I was thinking about that in the back of my head. I think there were some challenges on that one.
Yeah, I mean, there was some plumbing issues, and we couldn't figure it out. And we were young. We didn't really have a solid plan. We were kind of winging it the whole time. But when we sold it 2.5 years later, we made a 60% return on cash, in part because the market was better and we bought it at a good price. Had we had a little more experience and whatnot, we probably could have had a triple-digit return. So even though I would count it as a loss because we could have made more, we made enough where I can use it as a win.
That's one thing I love about real estate is a lot of the challenges and the problems you have with it, you can outlast. If you can outlast it, it's not a problem anymore. If you can just hold it a little longer and let the market catch up with you or kind of work through it. So it's kind of nice that one of your not wins is actually most people's would dream to have that opportunity. And that's one of your bad days in real estate.
Right.
Yeah. So tell us about your favorite deal that you've done so far.
So I bought a home in Southwest Fort Worth, sight unseen, just so I could brag that I bought it sight unseen. The numbers look good enough. I saw the pictures, and I bought it for $135,000, a duplex for $135,000. By the way, 5 of the homes I bought, for some reason, I bought for $135,000. That number kind of stuck with me. So I held it for about 5 or 6 years. I believe you guys managed it for me. Thank you very much. And
thank you for entrusting us.
Oh, you guys are great. But again, when COVID hit, I looked at all my homes. And I looked at the ones that had the highest equity and lowest cash every month. And it was that one. So I decided to sell it. And when I put it for sale, I realized I can get a lot more. I think I sold it for, it was like somewhere between $250 and $270.
Nice.
And, I bought it for $135. I put 20% down. What I owed on the loan went down.
Yeah, right? Amortization.
So I had about $160,000 to play with. And I used that to buy 3 homes. 1 home in Broken Bow, Oklahoma. I bought that actually with a friend of mine, used it as a VRBO, not necessarily the Lifestyles model, but I bought it with a friend of mine for $650,000. It's now worth $1.3 million. I used another $50,000 to buy a home in Farmers Branch, which again, you guys helped me lease it up. Thank you very much. I bought that home in Farmers Branch for what? $135,000. And I spent about $65,000 renovating it and sold it for about $280,000 a year later. And the last amount from that one home in Fort Worth, I bought another one in Fort Worth actually, and held that one for a year, sold it for $20,000 more, and used it to buy a woman's shelter in Richardson. So that one home in Southwest Fort Worth that I'd never seen before I purchased it helped me buy 3 other homes, each which made money as well. So that's probably my favorite deal.
Isn't that amazing? That is awesome.
Yeah.
And your Broken Bow, I think you got 2 now up there, right? Or is it just 1?
I have 1. My business partner has 2 more.
Okay. So if somebody listening wanted to learn more, because Broken Bow is an amazing place to go. We love it up there. I mean, when the scandemic hit, we went up there with our camper and had a blast. So if they wanted to rent it, is there a website they would go to?
Either VRBO or Airbnb. The name of our cabin is Grandview Heights. It sleeps 15. We have a hot tub. We have 2 fireplaces. And next month, we're installing a sauna.
Nice. Yeah, that I've seen the photos of that place. It's really nice. You got a good one up there.
I tell you,
Now,
it's booked every weekend, and during the week I can go up there when there's no one there, and I have a cabin all myself that other people are paying for. It's kind of cool.
yeah. Now, do you have Wi-Fi up there? Because that's
Oh yeah, it wasn't that good at first in the entire area, but we've jacked it up where we've got excellent Wi-Fi now.
Yeah, that was the challenge. Whenever I'd go up there, I couldn't really work very well. My son was still doing the online school thing, and we'd have to drive into town and sit in front of the barbecue restaurant because that's one place we had cell reception
Right.
to do his homework, and then we'd go back to the camper.
I think the city was behind on a lot of utilities, but they're slowly catching up. Wi-Fi has been caught up. We're good now.
Okay, so let's talk about a good multifamily story, and then I want to also talk about, I don't know if it's transition homes, the women's shelters, things like that, things that you've done through real estate that helped other people. And I think that's an amazing thing to be able to say is like, yeah, you're making money, but then you're also helping people. And too many people look at us as evil landlords taking advantage of people. No, we're actually helping people in so many ways. But let's talk about your multifamily and let's circle around to that.
Sure. My first passive deal was with Don Rawl. Hopefully I can use his name. Great guy. Up in Denton. I was going to put $100,000 into his deal, and it was my first time as a passive. I chickened out and put in $50,000 and did nothing. I really didn't know how to read the reports, but I got a monthly report and felt like a businessman. Sold it, I believe, about 2.5 years later. And during those 3 years, each year, I got a $5,000 return, cash out. So, 10%. 10% a year for 3 years. And then after 3 years or around 3 years, we sold it and he gave me $102,000 back. So if you add up the $15,000 over 3 years, 102, my $50,000 turned into $117,000 and I did nothing. So, that's a huge return. I'm feeling great. He gave me 117% return, if you will. And I remember bragging about him to a couple of my friends in front of him. He's like, Marty, you were my worst deal. He goes, you only got just over 100,000. I had one over 300,000 or 300% return and another one 350% return. So while I felt like a schmuck at that moment, I still felt pretty good that, the system worked.
To that point, it was completely passive. You just gave him, and it was somebody you could trust, and he had a track record and he was good, and you didn't have to think about it. It was done. You wrote the check, you go back and do whatever it is you want to do in life. And then at the end of the day, you had something that was relatively safe and secure. And then you got paid at the end, and it was truly passive.
Yeah. They say you want to work hard for your money, but if you're really smart, you have your money work for you. And when your money's working for you, suddenly you're like, I don't need to do anything now. I mean, obviously you might have a job, I might do some other things, but yeah, you give them your money and, read the reports if you want, you don't have to. But if they're doing a good job, like Don was, there you go.
Yep. I'm a huge fan of Robert Kiyosaki's books. The first one and second one, Rich Dad Poor Dad, the first one, which is good. What's asset with liability? The second one, Cash Flow Quadrant, where it talks about your sources of income. And that's that fourth quartile, bottom right, where your money's working for you. That's when you're winning. So congratulations on those.
Thank you. And, I'd go further with that. It's not just having your money work for you, but when you're leveraging money, you have other people's money working for you. And that's why real estate is so huge.
Last week, I was sitting down with a mentor of mine, and he's done very, very well. And I was telling him some of the projects I had going on. He's like, hey, don't forget OPM. You need to use other people's money. I grew up in that same kind of similar background as you. Is like, you want to pay everything off. You don't want to have the debt. That sometimes is a challenge. But then when you see it on a spreadsheet and how it really comes out in real life, you're like, man, if I would have bought her more and spent less of my money in it, my return would have been even more. So yeah, it's kind of hard to overcome that.
To that point, one of the questions I was looking at is one of your biggest challenges that you had to overcome. It wasn't finding the deals. It wasn't financing the deals. It was the mindset. Because again, we grew up with the mindset of pay everything off and debt is bad. And once you realize what you said, you look at the numbers on a spreadsheet, you see how it all plays out. It'd be dumb not to do it. You just have to trust the system.
Yep. I've got some pro formas of some projects that I did the last month, and it was just staggering. You feel a couple of bucks hit your bank account, and that's cool. But when you actually look at it on the spreadsheet and figure out a couple bucks, well, that came from like a $0 investment. Well, that's an infinite return. And that's when it really hits you, is when you're looking at the spreadsheets. So tell us about how you have used real estate to obviously make money, but then also to help people that could really use an opportunity. Because I love what you've done, and I'm kind of tinkering with a little bit of what you're doing, but not to your level. So I want to hear more about your ministry programs and all that as far as real estate goes.
Again, when I left Target and had a little bit of play money, if you will, and I wanted to invest, I was looking for a duplex. Again, middle class mindset. I was worried about vacancy. What if I buy something I can't rent it out? And so duplex seems safer because there's two sides. And spent the day looking at a bunch of duplexes, passed on them all. But the very last one, the real estate agent said, "Hey, I don't know if you want to consider this one or not. They want to sell it to you, but they want to rent it back. It's transitional living for people coming out of prison or down and out. It's a great program." That sounds awesome. We should have started there.
Yeah.
So I went there and met the guy that started it is Troy Freeman. He has since passed away, but he used his name Freeman to call the organization Freeman, kind of a play in his last name. And he had a vision where he wanted to have transitional living in nice houses, in nice areas where people could have pride where they lived. He himself was in and out of prison for usually alcohol abuse. And he would get out of prison, go to a bad home in a bad neighborhood, be in the bad element, end up back in prison. So that was his vision, was to have these nice houses in a good Christian-based program. So I bought the home. It's been great. Since then, I've bought 4 more. And there's another spin-off organization called Forgiven Felons that I also bought a house for them as well. I've since sold that one, but I've got 3 men's houses, duplexes, and a women's shelter. And I tell you, it feels good for me as an investor from a financial standpoint. Yeah, I get my cash flow. I'm building equity, tax breaks, all the good stuff. But I'm supporting the organization. It's really good for the people that live there. And it's good for the neighborhoods. They do community projects. They clean up. It's a win-win-win. Very proud to be part of the organization. I also sit on the board, in full disclosure, the freemanhouse.org. I sit on the board. But whenever you can do stuff like that, and even if you have a house that's not part of an organization like that, we're providing a product and a service for people. So you can feel good that you're helping people out. I can show you before and after pictures of houses and apartments that I've bought, that when you're done, it's like, this is a trophy. Look what people used to live in. Look what they have now. That feels good.
And there's too many stigmas that come with being in that niche, because I've encouraged a buddy of mine that wanted to do something similar. At the last minute, he's like, no, I can't. I was like, dude, it's not what you think it is. Like these are, everybody's good people. They're just trying to get their leg up. I mean, if you don't give an opportunity, who will? Very neat. I love that. So what's next for you?
I'm at the point where I did so many transactions in 2020, 2021 that I've kind of leveled off. I think I want to do one more single family because the organization, frankly, needs another women's shelter. So I'll probably do one more single family. I've got some multifamilies. We're just waiting for the rates to get better, where I'm either going to do some refis or some selling. And it's mostly going to be that from here on out in multifamily.
Good.
In fact, we're looking even more at Tennessee, which is obviously the new Texas as far as the environment for investing.
That's what I keep hearing.
Taking a trip out there once. I'll be out there again in early December. It's growing. It's got some great opportunity.
And what part of Tennessee are y'all looking?
Started in Nashville, south of Chattanooga, east of Knoxville, which is my personal favorite.
There.
And then the Tri-Cities in the Northeast. So anything central to east. Again, I prefer like Knoxville, just a beautiful town. But the environment is right. They only update their taxes every 3 to 5 years, depending where they're at. Insurance is much more reasonable. And they only have 2% growth of new apartment complexes, yet like an 8% growth of people moving in there. It's harder to buy homes in this environment. So it's ripe. It is ripe for buying.
Yeah. So we've taken our RV out that side of the state, and it's really nice out there. And we've been out to not Broken Bow, but it's like the Broken Bow of Tennessee. That whole Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg area. So you're going to see it looks very similar in some regard.
We were going to go there and we didn't, but it's on our list next time.
It is very touristy on the main trek, but that's my first cabin experience when I was younger. We took a family vacation up there, and I always remember it. We had a little cabin up on the side of a mountain, had deer outside, so it's got a lot of similarities to Broken Bow, but you'll like it out there too. And then you'll have to check out Kate's Cove when you go up there. It's a really neat, up in the mountains. It's kind of a cove up in the top of the mountains where I guess time stopped and then became a national park. And then, so you got all the old cabins from the settlers that lived there forever. But you'll always see bear or deer when you're up there. It's really neat. It's a really nice area. You're gonna enjoy Tennessee as much as I love Texas, investing in Texas, and that's where I'm got my roots at, I think there's some stuff going on in Tennessee worth looking at.
Yep, without a doubt, without a doubt. Word is out.
So what would you tell somebody that's sitting at home or on their Peloton right now listening to you? What would you tell them?
I have a lot of friends ask me advice, so I get that a lot. Some people are just kicking the can, just trying to, figure out, is it real?
Mm-hmm.
What I'd say is they're going to hear two voices. They're going to hear one that says, wow, this sounds really good. But a lot of times they listen to the other voice where it says, it's not for me. It's for someone that's got a lot of money, or it's someone that's, more risk tolerant than I am. I've shared it with my family and they say the same thing. I can't take the risk. To me, it's a risk if you don't do it. It's kind of like exercise. I need to go to the gym more, but I hate going to the gym. Well, you're going to hate being unhealthy more than not exercising. So what I'd say is just be self-conscious and understand you've got competing voices in your head. And even though they can come up with 10 really good reasons why they shouldn't do it, I can come up with 10 really good reasons to counter every one of those reasons. They've got to check it out. I'm okay with people saying no to things, but they should have an educated no. A lot of times they're saying no and they don't really know why they're saying no. Right. They've just been taught, you can't do that. Again, some of the things you said, might be an evil landlord or for people with money. It's not. You're doing a good thing for other people. Everybody wins. You just got to get started. Start with educating yourself in the very least. The second thing I'd say is take a look at single family. That's a good way to get in. It's kind of a starter pack, if you will, into real estate. And it's real simple. Just take a look at the money coming in and then take a look at the money coming out. If you can cash flow, it's something you should probably try and do.
Yeah, I call them like the perfect 401k. I mean, it's you put money in once and you let it grow. Your 401k, traditionally, you're putting money in every single month and it'll grow however much you put in there, maybe a little bit with the market. But with the little house, somebody else is paying that mortgage down for you. Appreciation, taxes, all that pays for it. I mean, it's so much more safe and secure than what people think it is in their head. But I will say one thing, when you mentioned real estate being a rich man's sport or a rich man's game, I'm going to say it is. And it is because that's how they got rich. So play the game early and you're going to be rich if you do it right. I mean, and then pay attention to the people that are successful and have done it. Like, don't listen to the naysayers that never did it. But,
exactly.
The Marty Kennards and the Kyles and all the other people that have been on my other episodes, they've all done it. They've been in the trenches. They've made bad decisions. They made great decisions, but they're all done very, very well.
Even if you make a bad decision or a mistake here and there, that's an education. That's priceless.
There's no such thing as a free education.
That's true. That is true.
And I like it when they pay you too.
Exactly. One of the things you said about a 401k, a lot of people do that because it's safe. They don't need to think about that. They get excited about when the company matches. Oh, the company's matching me up to 5%. Well, real estate, what you said earlier, the renters are paying you a lot of money to pay down the note and everything else. It's way better than a company match of a 401k. They just need to check it out. And they have control of it. And they have the tax deductions, let alone appreciation and equity pay down and everything else that goes with it.
And I was, in a previous life, one of those guys that had a Series 7 license, and I bought and sold fixed income securities, stocks, bonds, preferred, all those for people. And I couldn't have talked about real estate to somebody. So all these people that are giving you this advice about 401ks and put your money in the market, like all those people get paid by you putting money in the market. They don't get paid a penny if you buy something in real estate. Like if anything, they view that as a competitor because you're taking money out of that brokerage account and putting it in something they don't get paid on. But I have met some really good, smart money managers that they'll have a portfolio for somebody that's 7 figures and they'll write a margin check and then purchase rental properties with that margin check. So they don't sell the brokerage account assets, but now they still get the benefit of owning the real estate and then basically treat that they own the mortgage. It's very interesting. That's the fun part about being on my side of the desk on watching people manage properties and portfolios. And I get to do the dirty side of it a lot of times. I get to do all the negatives that everybody talks about. I get that. But I really get to see these people that have gone, like you've gone from moving up to the A game or from baby steps to big players. And I've said it so many times, I've seen so many people take their portfolios and just level them up. And then they don't have to worry about what's going on in the world because they're okay.
Right. They're in control. And all you need to do is get started. Then it snowballs. And then you realize I could do this full time. I've been dabbling at this and doing very well. What if I actually took it seriously, Yeah. And that's where you can transition to doing it full time.
Yeah.
Funny, you were talking about, again, the 401k and people giving advice. I had a great guy managing my all my mutual funds and everything with Wells Fargo. You ended up becoming a pretty good friend. but I would, take money out from time to time to invest in real estate. And I'm almost apologizing because I'm taking money away from his account that he was managing. But then he started looking at my stuff and he started getting into it. He's like, yeah. And he goes, I can't argue with what you're doing. It's way better than whatever I can offer.
Well, I'm glad he recognized that. So many people don't.
Right.
Yeah. They've been institutionalized to where that's the only thing you can do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, nice. Well, Marty, I really appreciate you taking time and just visiting with me. And I really hope someone out there listening while they're on their Peloton or listening to podcasts on the way to work, and they hear one little nugget, something that makes them want to pick up the phone and call somebody they know that does real estate, or show up at a Lifestyles Unlimited meeting, which those are free to meet. The first time I went, I just talked to everybody, like, what is it that you're doing? And everybody loves talking about their stories. So that's one thing I love about real estate. People love talking about it. So I'm hoping somebody gets some value and takes that step and changes their life and the lives of all the people in their family tree below them also. So I appreciate that. But thank you so much. And any more last words of wisdom before we call it?
If not this, what? Because what other people are doing, a lot of people don't have a plan, period, or they think they have a plan because they're following what the world says with the 401k IRA, and neither one of those are going to work. You've got to check it out. This is your chance to take control. Again, you don't know what you don't know until you check it out. It's extremely doable wherever you're at in life, without a doubt.
All right. There you go. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Marty.
Enjoyed the chat.